And good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this special broadcast today on the second day of September 2021. Well, looking outside the window here today, it's a sunny day in Brisbane with the temperature currently at 21 degrees. Well, once again, welcome to the show. And this is the news segment where we have, we'll go and look at all the states and look at what the updates are from those states. And then, of course, we will finish off with the Daily India report coming by PIOTV. Well, right now, we're looking at all the states. Let's go to New South Wales first, where 1,116 local cases have been recorded.
A change of season hasn't altered the situation, but still the Premier is giving the state something to look forward to.
September is the month when we're asking everybody to get ready.
Get ready to possibly eat out, grab a drink with friends, go to an event or have a makeover when 70% of the adult population in the state is fully vaccinated mid-October.
No matter where you live, life will be much, much better, much freer, so long as you're vaccinated.
There'll be rules with the freedoms, capacity limits, spacing at venues, check-ins and mask wearing. And the easing of restrictions is unlikely to include having people over to your home.
It would be far safer, for example, for a family to have a meal in a restaurant than it would be necessarily to have people come into their home that may or may not be vaccinated.
The Premier is again promising further changes when the 80% target is achieved. She wants the Commonwealth to allow international travel to recommence and the hotel quarantine system to change.
If they're double dose vaccinated, I think home quarantine is a definite.
But the state isn't there yet. From tomorrow, it'll be 70% with one dose of the vaccine. In the hotspots, the Blacktown area already has more than 70% and Parramatta and the southwest are close, while the northwest, which isn't in a hotspot, is almost at 80%. Case numbers remain high and there are 4 more deaths, taking the toll to 100 over the past 2 months. Hospital admissions have again increased and there are 150 COVID-positive people in intensive care.
The most recent advice that I have received is that case numbers are likely to continue to rise for the next few weeks and the worst hospitalisation rate is likely to be in October.
It's unclear how those rising case numbers will influence the freedoms granted when that 70% target is reached and whether they'll be the same for hotspot and non-hotspot areas. Those details are still being finalised. The mayors in the hardest hit areas wanted to have a meeting with the Premier, but she's refused.
In Canterbury Bankstown, we have high case numbers and we have high vaccination numbers, and we don't know what the relief is going to be. We want the Premier to give us the roadmap, tell us what she's thinking.
The Premier insists she regularly meets with community leaders. Ashley Raper, ABC.
And of course, the Premier has to go in and talk with all the community leaders and then present the cases as they happen. Well, right now we'll take a look at what's happening right here in Queensland. Ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be a bit of a problem there with the sound on that track, so we will get back to you later with that. Well, right now we have looked at New South Wales. Let's take a look at ICT.
Good morning, everyone. We have 23 new cases overnight. 14 of them are linked. They are mostly household contacts of existing cases. 9 remain under investigation. 11 of today's cases were in quarantine during their entire infectious period. Another 11 were in the community for some of their infectious period. Now, the lockdown and the significantly reduced interaction between people helps reduce the risk that those people pose. We have 13 people now in hospital with COVID, 4 in intensive care. None of the people in hospital with the virus at the moment are fully vaccinated. Yesterday, testing lifted to 3,763. So, as always, please get tested if you have any COVID symptoms. Our testing centres have relatively short waiting times at the moment and are distributed well across the ACT. Yesterday, we announced some changes in the public health directions that come into effect at 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. There are a number of frequently asked questions that come from those announcements yesterday, so I hope I can address some of them now. Non-organised recreational activity includes things like walking, jogging, cycling, and going for a picnic in the park. It does not include organised boot camps, sporting competitions, organised team training, golf, tennis, those sorts of more organised sporting activities. Informal, small groups and conducted within your household or no more than 5 people. The reason for 5 people, that could be 5 people from 5 separate households, is to give singles and couples some opportunity to interact with others. But this needs to be done outside, wearing masks and for up to 2 hours. And the advice for everyone is that outside of these interactions, keep as far away from other people as you possibly can.
So there you go. That's the update there from ICT. And with that advice, we right now go to Victoria. Well, Victoria has been looking towards getting a 0 cases, but that plan has now been abandoned, as we'll find out with this report.
Today is a real kick in the guts for Victorians who want to see their family and friends soon, and for those businesses trying to plan their future, given that restrictions are going to be on our lives well into October. But the Premier says this lockdown hasn't been a failure. He said, had we not locked down last month, we would be seeing case numbers in the thousands today. It also comes with an admission that its COVID-0 strategy can no longer work because the Delta variant is just too infectious. Now, the challenge remains for the Premier to get people to follow the rules and for Victorians to follow the rules, but the challenge is about getting more people to follow those rules. Here's the Premier earlier today.
We've thrown everything at this, but it is now clear to us that we are not going to drive these numbers down. They are instead going to increase. Now it's up to us to make sure that they don't increase too fast.
So, Rich, yesterday the Premier foreshadowed a modest easing of restrictions. It's very modest. What changes are being made?
Well, modest perhaps a bit of an overstatement. The big change is that playgrounds will reopen on Friday, and the other good news is for parents with Year 12 students is they can book a vaccine priority booking next week. Now, the government is also continually worried about the situation in New South Wales, and they're actually shrinking the border bubble. 6 local government areas are being removed from that, including Bendigo and Shepparton. But the focus now is not on reducing case numbers down to 0, it's on how many people can get vaccinated as quickly as possible, and that's the key to get out of these lockdowns. Bridget Rollison reports.
The change of season brought hope of some freedoms, but with 120 new cases, the biggest spike in Victoria in over a year, those hopes were dashed.
There's going to be very significant restrictions. A lockdown in some form is going to be there to contain cases until we get the vaccination rates as high as possible.
But the mental toll of lockdown 6 has been recognised. Playgrounds will reopen on Friday for children under 12, but parents must check in with a QR code and they're not allowed to take off their masks to eat or drink.
Because then we can go out and play at the parks and have more fun.
Yeah, with homeschooling and having
all the kids at home, it's being able to get out and use of energy, and it just makes for sort of a happier day.
The majority of restrictions are here to stay until 70% of Victorians have had one dose. It's estimated we'll hit that target on the 23rd of September. That's when the 5 kilometre limit will be expanded to 10 kilometres. You'll be allowed to exercise for an hour more each day, and outdoor personal training will be allowed for 2 people. But even then, the curfew and stay-at-home orders will remain.
It was supposed to be D-Day. Well, D stands for devastation. D stands for despair, because that's what Victorians are feeling today.
Absolutely, it's tough, and 3 weeks seems like an eternity. That light at the end of the tunnel is too dim and the tunnel is too long, but it is a light at the end of the tunnel.
That light is closer for regional Victoria. The lockdown will likely end next week everywhere but Shepparton.
Albeit still with significant restrictions. It will not be a full opening up. There will not be hundreds of people at the pub or the restaurant or the cafe.
VCE students and teachers will get priority vaccinations at state-run hubs from next Tuesday. Schools will not be back for Melbourne students this term, but a plan for term 4 will be announced next week.
All we want is a sense of certainty, and as long as the government gives that level of certainty, we can work within that.
But with no date for hospitality to reopen, struggling business owners like this one in Altona North say they may not last much longer.
3 years ago my business was worth something. What's it worth to me now? I don't know. It's grim.
Our small business owners and our female community leaders are at breaking point. Their mental health is severely impacted.
The next big changes will come when 70% of Victorians have received both doses in line with the national plan. That's not expected until the end of October. Many Melburnians are likely to be under some form of lockdown until then. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Melbourne.
So there you are. That's the update there from Victoria. Well, ditching that zero emission plan. So, well, of course, it is the sign of times. Well, right now, let's look at the condition that Australia is in. Have we avoided a technical recession? How are things going there?
Kate Forsyth is packing away items she'd normally rent out. Her events business can't operate during Melbourne's lockdown, and she's not confident of a quick recovery.
This lockdown is most certainly feeling quite different. It feels like before, when there might have been some quiet desperation amongst fellow business owners, it's become very difficult. We're just very, very tired, very exhausted by the whole thing.
18 months of rebooking the same events to new dates has hit cash flow. Without JobKeeper this time around, she's had to let her casual staff go and slash the hours of permanent employees.
There's just a very quickly mounting pile of risks associated with running this type of business at the moment.
Victoria was locked down for part of the last quarter, but Australia's economy still grew between April and June, although at a slower pace than the previous 3 months. Over the year, it jumped more than 9% from the COVID recession last year.
The annual growth numbers look fantastic because we had a 7% slump in the economy in the June quarter a year ago. So that basically set up a very low base.
Contributing to growth in the second quarter, household spending was up 1.1% as people travelled around the country. Housing investment also rose as the home builder scheme spurred construction. Investment in state and local government infrastructure projects increased, but exports fell, led by the mining sector, despite strong commodity prices.
Our economy has some very difficult days ahead. But today's national account numbers underline the fact that our economy remains resilient.
Australia's now unlikely to experience a second recession or 2 consecutive quarters of the economy shrinking.
We're going to have a negative September quarter. That's almost inevitable given the impact of the lockdowns, but we should avoid a technical recession because the odds are we will see some sort of recovery starting to occur through the December quarter.
The government's counting on an economic bounce back once restrictions ease, but the opposition says Australians are already paying the price of the slow vaccine rollout.
The digits and the decimals don't mean much to Australian families who already feel like their economy is in recession.
Among those is Steffi Shome, who can't find work because her whole industry is shut. She moved from Queensland to Sydney last month, expecting the lockdown to lift shortly.
I haven't seen any job listed for beauty therapists, even obviously not at the moment, but even for the future.
Government support isn't available as she's on a temporary visa.
Even after 6 years, it's been a long time, I do feel like I belong here on a very tight budget. Only thing that I'm paying is the rent and the food and just nothing else.
The data is already starting to show the hit from jobs lost and people tightening their purse strings in lockdown states. For some businesses, it could be the final straw.
Even for us, I can feel that if dragging more than this, it's going to be a problem.
Atom Namkanti has seen several shops and restaurants around him shut in recent weeks. While the price of his ingredients has risen, he can't raise the cost for customers in the middle of lockdown.
Cost up, but your income down, so it's very hard.
Hoping the business won't be wiped out before restrictions ease.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the well. And don't forget that every Wednesday we have the real estate update right here with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. Well, right now it's time to go to our daily India report by PIO TV. Remember, this is a collaboration between Australian Indian Radio and PIO TV, where they present this exclusive report. So let's welcome Ankita.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, at the request of the Taliban, India held its first dialogue in Doha with the new Taliban regime that has taken over the reins of Afghanistan. India had the first formal official meeting and discussions with the Taliban on 31st August in Doha, Qatar. Taliban has taken over the reins in Afghanistan on 15th August 2021 after 20 years as the USA lived up to its promise of a full withdrawal of forces on 31st August. The Indian ambassador to Qatar, Deepak Mittal, and the head of Taliban's political office in Doha, Sher Mohammad Abbas Tanikzai, met at the request of the Taliban side, and the meeting was held in the Indian Embassy in Doha. Discussions focused on safety, security and early return of Indian nationals stranded in Afghanistan. The travel of Afghan nationals, especially minorities who wish to visit India, also came up. The Indian ambassador raised concerns about Afghan soil being used for anti-India activities and terrorism. The Taliban has assured that the concerns raised by India would be positively addressed. The meeting is significant as India was kept out of the Troika Plus dialogues on Afghanistan involving US, Russia, China and Pakistan. The meeting between Ambassador Mittal and Tanikzai took place hours after the US completed the withdrawal of its troops from Afghanistan. On 28 August, Tanikzai, in a clear overture, described India as an important country in the region and said the Taliban wants to maintain Afghanistan's trade, economic and political relations with it. India has broken its own single-day vaccination record with nearly 13.3 million doses of COVID vaccine administered. India on 31st August broke its own record of vaccinating the highest number of individuals against coronavirus in a single day. The country administered 13.3 million of COVID vaccine jabs. This is the second time that India has crossed the magic figure of 10 million vaccinations in a single day. Government sources said that with the country crossing 650 million jabs, India has now vaccinated twice the population of the US. With the increased supply of vaccines, India will now be able to vaccinate all citizens by the end of 2021. Administering 650 million doses in 200 days is an important step towards achieving total immunization. Meanwhile, the hill state of Himachal Pradesh became the first state that administered at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine to all. Indian para-athletes bring unprecedented glory by winning 10 medals so far at the Tokyo Paralympic Games. 3 Indian para-athletes, high jumpers Mariyappan Thangavelu and Sharad Kumar and shooter Singraj Adhana delivered extraordinary performance at the ongoing Tokyo Paralympics. With the new medals on 31st August, India's tally at the Tokyo Paralympics is at an unprecedented 10, including 2 gold, 5 silver and 3 bronze. Thangavelu had 1 gold at the Rio 2016 Games. Singraj won was India's second shooting Paralympic medal a day after Avni Lekhara's historic gold in rifle shooting. Indian economy is rebounding terrifically post-COVID-19. India's real gross domestic product grew by 20.1% in the April to June quarter of the fiscal year 2021-22. After the huge economic slump of more than 9% due to COVID in 2020, India's GDP growth in the April to June quarter of 2021 surged by 20.1%. This marks a tremendous recovery according to data released by the National Statistical Office on 31st August. The real gross value added for Q1 rose by 18.8%. The biggest year-on-year rise was in the construction sector at 68.3%. This sector saw the steepest fall in the same period last year at 49.5%, as construction halted during the nationwide lockdown. Chief Economic Advisor Krishnamurthy Subramanian said that it was rightly predicted that the Indian economy would have a V-shaped recovery. The US has approved more H-1Bs in 2020-21 due to rising demand for technology talent. The US administration has issued a higher number of H-1B visas this year as demand for technology talent is on the rise. Approval rates for H-1B visas in first 2 quarters of the US financial year were 98.1% and 97% respectively, compared to about 84% in 2018 and 2019 during the term of previous US President Donald Trump. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services under Trump had started rejecting a higher number of visa applications or asking for additional supporting documents to be submitted. Each year, the United States issues 65,000 fresh H-1B visas and another 20,000 for those who have received master's degree in the US. Immigration experts have been calling for an overhaul of the visa application process, under which employers have to currently apply for visas over 6 months before the person can actually be deployed. Resident Indians invested a record $1.53 billion overseas in debt, equities and bank deposits because of the new liberalized remittance scheme. Overseas asset investment by resident Indian individuals hit a record since the Reserve Bank of India made the process easier through the liberalized remittance scheme. Indians have invested $1.53 billion in debt, equities and bank deposits through the LRS since the pandemic-induced lockdown in March 2020, the highest since 2004 to 2005 when the window was introduced, data on outward remittances released by the central bank showed. Liberalized remittance scheme is a measure to facilitate resident individuals, including minors, to remit funds outside India up to $250,000 or its equivalent in any freely convertible foreign currency per financial year for any permissible capital or current account transaction or a combination of both. The scheme was introduced by Reserve Bank of India in 2004 with the remittance limit of $25,000 and was subsequently amended over the years to incorporate changes according to the prevailing economic conditions. Many global tech giants are vying to give digital loans to Indian companies as they seek to get a foothold in the $1 trillion Indian digital loan market. India's digital loan market is becoming a battleground for tech giants like Facebook Inc. and Xiaomi Corp. as they seek a foothold in what is said to be a $1 trillion industry. Facebook Inc. said in August that India would be the first country where it rolls out its small business loan program, offering loans via a partner to firms that advertise on its platform. The loans will range from $6,720 to $68,300 with interest rates of 17% to 20%, potentially without collateral. The social media giant's foray into India coincides with Xiaomi's plans to offer loans, credit cards and insurance products in partnership with some of the nation's biggest banks and startup digital lenders. Amazon.com also made its maiden investment in the country's wealth management sector this month, participating in a $40 million round by fintech startup Small Case Technologies Private. After offering wealth management products such as digital gold, mutual funds on its popular Google Pay platform, Alphabet Inc.'s Google has now tied up with small Indian lenders for opening time deposits for its customers. India's digital payments market is drawing the attention of some of tech's biggest names after online transactions surged during the pandemic and traditional lenders turned cautious following a rise in bad debt. Trailer of the Vijay Sethupathi starrer Tamil film Tughlaq Darbar is dropped on YouTube. The political satire will premiere on September 10th on Sun TV and then stream on the OTT platform Netflix. Netflix on 31st August released the trailer of Tughlaq Darbar starring Vijay Sethupathi in the lead role. The trailer opens with shot of Chennai's famous Kovam River, once a source of fresh water, today a giant cesspool. The trailer also gives a mythological lift to Sethupathi's character, who is presented as a man born to clean up the mess created by power-hungry politicians. The first time we see Sethupati, he is standing with a broomstick, like a sentinel determined to protect what's left of the city. Vijay Sethupathi plays a sidekick to a big-shot politician played by Parthiban. Sethupathi's character is a morally flexible man who kind of believes that it takes a cunning mind to defeat another cunning mind. The film seems like a direct mockery of the antics performed by politicians, as Sethupathi's performance takes such over-the-top public theatricality to whole another level, bringing out the comic validity in it. Director Delhi Prasad Dina Dayalan has also roped in Satyaraj, who is a king of mockery. Tughlaq Darbar marks Vijay Sethupathi's second collaboration with Parthiban. The film will premiere on the famous Tamil TV channel Sun TV on September 10th. Following the TV premiere, it will be made available for streaming on Netflix. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
And thank you very much, Ankita. As we know that the editor-in-chief of that is K.N. Gupta, managing editor is Munish Gupta, and that's the Daily India Report, an exclusive to Australian Indian Radio. Well, right now we'll take a quick look at some of the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane, because there's as the restrictions ease, so a lot of functions and events have started taking place. Okay, so first up we have Vedanta Center, which is having their annual Vedanta Multicultural Show on 3rd of October. And of course, Nritya Bharatiya School of Kathak and Dance, run by Nimita Debroy, is presenting Arpan, which is happening this Saturday from 5:30 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. The concert, which has been postponed from 14th of August, now on 4th September, and few tickets only are left, and as I was speaking to her earlier on, so this will be a very, very good show and not to be missed. And of course, her annual concert, which she has been presenting for quite a few years here in Brisbane, is happening this Saturday at Acacia Ridge School. So, if you haven't got your tickets, please log on and you might be lucky to get a ticket. Well, Benio Diwali is taking place on the 30th of October at Benio Grandstand. So that is another very good event. And of course, we know that BSK and the annual cup is happening right now and on all Sundays. The Federation of Indian Communities of Queensland presents their annual Diwali on 5th of November at King George Square, free entry, and of course we all know about this mega festival that is taking place every year and very well supported. Well, right now we also look at Arya Pratinidhi Sabha and Gayatri Mahayagna on Sunday. Well, right now, of course, the India Day Fair, which was postponed from 15th of August, now happening at 23rd October at Suncorp Piazza. So another event not to be missed. Kairali Brisbane and their function is now on 11th of September. So it's good to see that so many different ones happening over the different dates. Mums United Seva Project. As we know that on Saturday we had that interview with Rohani Prasad and a wonderful project that's happening. If you'd like to donate, please donate to this very worthy cause. As we discovered during the course of that interview that there are so many people who need food supplies and other things, and it's a wonderful initiative by this group to bring this on. And of course, another event that we are supporting, the Bullerwood. Well, good news for the organizers is this event is now sold out. And of course, we did have the interview with Subhasni and of course with Abdul Azam right here on this channel a few days back. Moving on, looking at an interfaith music concert which will now be on the 9th of October. And of course, the Sargam Music Academy, their musical night is now on 13th of November, which gives us a little bit of time to plan for that. And of course, Simply Human and their Superheroes Without Sky now is on 9th of October. Last but not least, we'll talk about the Vedanta Center and all their programs. All of these you can find out from our website. All of them are there, and of course you can always visit our Facebook page and you'll find all of them there as well. So ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment. Remember that at 10 o'clock we have the weekly travel updates with Tanvi Goyal of Oz India Travel, and we'll look at some of the easing restrictions. So under those easing restrictions, what are the travel arrangements, what are the travel tips for this point in time, all that coming up at 10. We'll see you then. It's goodbye from me from this segment right now, and it's always good to have your company, wonderful to have your company. As I mentioned before, we do appreciate your feedback, and we know that not many people can view on live as we go, but people watch it afterwards as well. So thank you so much. And I'd like to also thank all the admins of the groups who allow us to share our feed on their groups. Really appreciate it, because all we are sharing on this is community information, which is of interest to the general public. We do the news and of course the Daily India Report and functions and events and interviews within the local community. So until 10 o'clock, it's goodbye from me.